Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys.
Welcome back to another lesson, number 44. This week, we are going to look at a natural disaster that is one of, if not the deadliest storms to ever hit the United States.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I heard about the storm a few years ago from Morbid while I was redoing the house that we live in now. I think their story was tied to, I think that their coverage of this story was tied to one of their, they do like a haunted lighthouse series,
Mm-hmm.
which they haven't done in a while because they were with Wondery and Wondery sucked, but now they're with Sirius XM and Sirius is great. So maybe they'll bring their haunted lighthouses back. And
Nice.
they had started doing haunted lighthouses, haunted roads, all kinds of stuff. And then Wondery was like, no, you can't do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're
Why?
not joining them. They were just trapped in a contract.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a crappy contract, and Sirius is giving them more creative control over their own show. So,
Sure.
not to talk shit about Wondery or anything. All right. But anyways, this is tied to one of their lighthouse episodes as the Galveston Lighthouse. It's actually the Point Boulevard Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Is said to be extremely haunted, mainly because of this storm.
Hmm.
The city of Galveston, and so we're going to be covering the Great Galveston Hurricane of 1900.
Is that South Carolina?
Texas.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. I bet people, our South Carolina listeners, are like, fuck you, you dumb son of a bitch. Listen, I say it all the time. Geography was not my strong suit.
Right.
I be having to ask people, where are you from? I worked this lady, her name's Fatima. She's from Bosnia. And I was like, where's that at? All right. So the city of Galveston, Texas was founded in 1836. In the decades that followed, the city had weathered many storms and came out none the worse for it. By 1900, the population of the city had grown to over 37,700 people. It was the fourth largest city by population in the state of Texas at the time the storm hit. The city was, I thought that said poisoned. Nope. The city was positioned on a bay.
The city was possessed.
The city was poisoning the bay. No. The city was positioned on a bay, making it one of the busiest ports in the nation. And I think it's the Galveston Bay. It is also known to have an ornate, or it was also known to have an ornate business district known as the Strand or the Wall Street of the Southwest.
Hey, we got a strand.
We do have a Strand on Maine.
Yep.
All this growth and prosperity, along with residents' experiences with previous storms, left the citizens of the city feeling as if they were untouchable when it came to Mother Nature.
Mm.
And we know, especially from personal experience last year,
Yeah.
Mother Nature
Nobody's
says,
safe.
I do what the fuck I want. I think, oh, yeah. So that's a very naive way of thinking. However, not all of the residents were naive to the dangers of living on a sea island. In 1875, a hurricane had came through the area and severely damaged the nearby town of Indianola, which is a real cool name. The town was rebuilt, but just 11 years later, another powerful storm came through that forced most of its residents to completely leave.
Mm.
Some residents of Galveston had proposed a seawall be built to protect the city, but their concerns were dismissed by most of the other residents as well as the local government. Even a reporter from the Daily News wrote in an article in 1891 that a seawall was not needed as a strong hurricane would never hit our island. It'll never hit the mountains. What are you talking about?
Right.
To add to the vulnerability of the city, development continued on the island, leading the sand dunes along the shore to be dug up and used to fill low lying areas around the city, stripping away what little barrier the city had against the Gulf of Mexico.
The Gulf of Mexico.
The Gulf of Mexico.
Where's that at?
Mexico. I will divorce you. That's not. Wait, he knows. That's not a joke. Bruh, I would. Actually, no, you'd be a widow. Or I'd be a widow. Are you kidding me? If you flipped on me like that? Oh, hell no. 10 years down the drain.
Right.
Sightings of the storm began to get reported. Oh, hang on. Nice crack. Sorry. A little homage to wine and crime there.
See, I thought it was the Gulf of impeach Trump now because the Epstein files. But
The Gulf of release the motherfucking files. Sightings of the storm began to get reported on August 27th. This was long before radars and meteorology was really a thing. I mean, they had meteorology, but like they didn't have fucking radars.
yeah,
So their reports were coming from sailors.
yeah,
That was meteorology in the late 1800s. The fucking 1800s.
that's
kind of
cool, actually.
Yeah, it
to know
is.
that like meteorology came from sailors.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean, because you're the ones out on the sea. You get
and
to see the
astrology too.
storms
I
forming
mean,
out there.
yeah,
So you can really like.
a lot of astrology came from sailors.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
And black people.
yeah.
Fun fact: the Mali people had mapped Sirius 10,000 years ago.
Wow, that's cool.
But you know, black people don't contribute any fucking thing to society. So what the fuck? On September 4th, the Weather Bureau in Galveston began to receive warnings from the central office in D.C. that a tropical disturbance was making its way through Cuba towards the Gulf. But these warnings were slow to come in due to political tensions between the US and Cuba after the Spanish American War.
No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
To complicate matters even further, the Weather Bureau director, Willis Luther Moore, had put in place a policy that forced local weather bureaus to get approval from the head office in DC before they were allowed to issue any storm warnings.
What the hell?
Let's just strip NOAA completely bare and just like get rid of the National Weather Service. It's fine.
Right.
Due to the lack of communication between the two country bureaus, U.S. weather forecasters began saying the storm would take a northeastward path through Florida and out to the ocean. But in Cuba, forecasters were saying this was wrong and that the storm looked more likely to continue on its western path and probably go straight through central Texas. So while warnings were issued as far north as Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and as far west as New Orleans, Texas was left completely out of the warnings. As they woke up on the morning of the 8th, residents weren't at all concerned with the rolling ocean or the dark clouds that made their way over the city as the day progressed. A few people saw reason for concern and fled to the mainland, but most of the city's people just went about their day-to-day lives, believing no harm would come to them.
Oh no.
And so many of them would be wrong.
Right.
When I tell you that this is probably, I don't know of another anything that I think we've covered in this or that I've learned about in history other that's not man-made, other than like, you know, the genocide of indigenous people and stuff like that, chattel slavery, that has killed so many people. It's bad, dude.
Yeah.
If the meteorologists in the US had been able to have regular communication with the meteorologists in Cuba, they would have known that how the city of Santiago de Cuba had seen over 12 inches of rain in one 24-hour stretch.
Mm.
Now, keep in mind, we got 12 hours of rain in like 48 hours.
Yeah.
Imagine if that had been doubled.
Right.
The southern end of the city was flooded with over 5 feet of water. The storm was said to have destroyed much of the agriculture on the island and left many of the residents unhoused. And it was only going to get stronger as it crossed across the Gulf of Mexico and hit the U.S. Listen, after that, bitch wanted to be like, oh, what do they call it now? The Gulf of America? And I'm like, the Gulf of Mexico. And she's like, no, 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 no. But what's the name now? The Gulf of Mexico. And I just stared straight into her soul at
Right.
work. And my boss is over there trying not to laugh her fucking ass off because I'm just like, Gulf of Mexico,
Right.
bitch. Uh, On September 8th, 1900, the Great Galveston Hurricane made landfall as a Cat 4 hurricane by modern standards,
Damn.
with winds over 140 miles per hour. At this time, the highest point in the city was only 8.7 feet or 2.3 meters above sea level. Unfortunately, the storm surge that hit the city was over 15 feet or 5 meters, washing over the entire island.
Jesus.
From 3 p.m. until 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m., the surge flowed and grew to depths of over 9 feet throughout portions of the city. And that's Helene. That's Helene. That's more water than Helene,
Yeah.
which is insane.
Especially on an island.
I don't
There's
fucking.
nowhere to go.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna? This is why I don't want to live on an island or
Right.
really right on the coast.
Yeah.
I want to be within an hour of a beach, but I don't want to be on the beach
Right.
until we're like old and retired and ready to die, and then we'll go live on an island somewhere and die the happy way. All of the bridges connecting the island to the mainland were destroyed. 15 miles of train track was destroyed, and buildings were literally wiped off their foundations.
Jesus. Yeah. I'm looking pictures of it right now.
Over 3,600 homes were destroyed, and out of 36,000 residents, over 10,000 were left unhoused.
Wow.
On the morning of the 9th, one of the few ships that survived the storm in the harbor set sail to Texas City on the western side of the bay, where a telegraph message was sent to Governor Joseph D. Sawyers and President William McKinley. Quote, I have been deputized by the mayor and the Citizens Committee of Galveston to inform you that the city of Galveston is in ruins. End quote. The message also contained the conservative number of 500 people dead, although officials initially thought this to be an exaggeration. But now the official report stands at over 8,000 lives lost,
God.
although some estimates are over 12,000.
That's crazy.
Now, close to Galveston is Port Bolivar, where there is the Port Bolivar Lighthouse. The original structure was destroyed during the Confederate War. A new lighthouse was built in 1872 and still stands to this day. For 61 years, until it was decommissioned in 1933, this lighthouse stood as a beacon for ships traveling in and out of the harbor. On the day the storm hit the island, the lighthouse would become a safe haven for 125 souls to wait out the storm. This 117-foot lighthouse that was sheathed in cast iron plates was manned by Harry C. Claiborne. On the morning of the 8th, Harry worked to stock provisions in his lighthouse just in case it became a hub for people fleeing from the storm. Over 125 people would find safe harbor in this lighthouse.
Wow.
The last 9 were passengers from a train that had got stuck in the flooded waters. These 9 people braved waist deep water to get there before the water sealed the door to the lighthouse shut.
Mm.
Unfortunately, the other 90 or so passengers and crew on the train were trapped and would eventually drown to death.
Wow.
Harry was not the only one that was helping that day. There was another lighthouse, and honestly, I ended up running across the US Naval website for this.
Hmm.
Um, that's where a good portion of this last bit comes from. There's a lot of people that helped out, but I kind of wanted to pinpoint more so this particular lighthouse because of like the spooky, just to give you guys a little bit of spooky spook. But there are a lot of people that helped out,
Yeah.
a lot. There was another lighthouse as well as there was actually a few other lighthouses as well as Naval Life Saving Service members that were stationed in the harbor. The men took in refugees into their stations and onto their ships. At around 4 p.m. on Saturday, a group of men set off from the Galveston with the whale ship with the whaleboat from the ship and worked their way through the flooded streets of the city rescuing people for hours.
Jeez.
Now keep in mind, they're trying to get through a flooded city. There's no motor on this boat. Oars aren't going to work because there's too much debris floating through the water. So what they would do is one man would get in the water with a rope that was tied to the boat, swim out a distance, tie the rope to a pole, and then the guys in the ship would pull the rope and pull the boat to the pole.
Yeah.
And then the next guy would get in the water, swim a ways, tie it to a pole, and then they would pull themselves a little bit further. And they did this for like 24 hours.
Wow.
They took some breaks here and there, but that's how they had to work themselves through the streets of the city.
That's fucked.
That's insane, but like the dedication that you have to save people to be willing to go through all of that, like
Sure.
big props to these men for getting out there and doing that.
Yeah.
It is believed that night that wind speeds may have reached over 200 miles per hour or 321 kilometers per hour, strong enough to throw grown men through the air and knock over horses. Poor fucking horses. God damn. In
Yeah.
the
The pictures of it are just a pile of wood.
just a pile it's like Helene.
Yeah.
It's like when Lake Lure was full of shit, when our it's just piles of shit everywhere.
Pile of stuff.
Debris, just a pile of debris.
There's like maybe 3 or 4 houses left. A church. There was a church left.
In the harbor, a ship named the Kendall Castle broke loose from her moorings and ended up colliding with the Half Moon Shoal lighthouse,
Mm,
killing the keeper, Charles Bowen.
damn.
Sadly, Charles's father, wife, and daughter, who were staying in the city, also died in the storm. Whole families were just wiped out.
It's crazy.
There were 3 screw pile lighthouses, and, like, I looked up what the fuck that was, and my brain was like, "Huh?" Just look it up if you wanna know what a screw pile lighthouse is. Only one of them survived the storm. At Bolivar Lighthouse, Harry did his best to care for the large group of people that were seeking shelter with him from the storm. They attempted to capture rainwater, but were only able to get wind-blown seawater. To add to the gloomy atmosphere, those within the lighthouse could hear guns booming in the distance. Across from the lighthouse sat Fort Travis, where soldiers were stranded by the flood and defenseless against the storm. They were firing off their artillery as a distress signal.
Mm,
As the storm began to blow out of the area, the survivors began to emerge to find what looked like a war zone. There were dozens of dead bodies of people who had not reached the lighthouse before the floodwaters sealed the door shut. When Harry went to check on the keeper's house, he found all of his belongings had been washed away in the storm. Galveston Bay looked much the same. Dozens of human and animal bodies were carried out to sea by the receding floodwaters. At Fort St. Jacinto, Jacinto, only 12 or so of the 120 personnel survived the storm, one of them riding on a door that was blown all the way across the fucking bay.
jeez.
Just wee. Listen, if he can stay on a door getting blown across the bay, Rose, You could have let Jack on the fucking door, okay? You cunt. Scoot the fuck over. Have you seen that one video or clips of like this couple that like has a door in their yard and they're like all the different ways that they could have sat on the door together and they're like doing different positions. They're like playing cards together and shit. Like, yeah, Rose. At the Fort Point Life Saving Station, all that was left was a few broken pilings where the buildings once stood.
Mm,
The life saving station was no more.
right.
For at least 2 weeks after the storm, there was essentially a mass funeral for all those lost in the storm. With possibly 12,000 dead humans and an untold number of dead animals of all shapes and sizes, many of the bodies were never identified. At first, they attempted to bury the bodies in the ground or out at sea, but over the time, the smell became overwhelming and they just started building pyres and burning anyone they came across to speed up the process.
Yeah.
They burned so many bodies that they ran out of oil.
Wow.
This storm is a testament to the folly of man and the unforgiving nature of Mother Nature. Never before, not since, has a natural disaster caused so much loss of life within the U.S. Not Katrina and her Helene combined, but once again, the confidence of men. They believe they were untouchable for whatever reason. Just because something has never happened doesn't mean it can't.
Right.
But they believe they had lived safely for that long. Why not just strip the coastline of any and all natural defenses against the storm? And due to a political pissing match between the US and Cuba, there was no communication between the two countries' weather agencies. Yet another example of men not being emotional and fucking us over, am I right?
Right.
Okay, Bill, thoughts?
Uh, Noah. This is why we need Noah, people.
This is why
Like,
we need the National Weather Service.
yeah. They they need people to run radar so that when something like this comes upon us, we can get the fuck out.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a
It
real shame that we
doesn't take
are,
a genius to know that.
it's a real shame that we're a reactive society and not a proactive society where we always do things once something has happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Yeah.
I've always talked about indigenous culture and how they work with the land
Yeah.
and they understand, hey, maybe don't build your fucking house beside a river
Yeah.
because even if it happens only once in 100 years, it's gonna flood.
If you're gonna live on the coast, be prepared for a hurricane, please.
Be prepared for her. Build your house on stilts,
Yeah.
man. Stilts.
And just be prepared to get out.
And be prepared to leave. These people were nomadic. Indigenous people were nomadic, a large portion of them, for a reason.
Yeah.
Because, like, hey, it's summertime. It's going to be real stormy down here. Let's, like, go up here to the top of the landmass that has no borders.
Yeah.
Anyways. Anyways. All right, friends.
I think
Thanks. Huh?
I think my opinion's swinging a lot more to indigenous cultures now just because of global warming and yeah, that
Like,
just stuff like that.
you
Like,
know, it's funny. I had a white mom growing up. I really wish people could meet her because, like, yeah, she was a white woman, but she wasn't one of those white women.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And she honestly, she grew up in the civil rights era. She grew up, my parents met when their schools integrated. People thought she was mixed because she just had curly fucking hair.
yeah,
So, like, she went through a lot of shit and she loved indigenous people and their culture.
yeah,
And she was always like, they know what the fuck they're talking about.
yeah.
We should really be listening to them, but people don't want to listen. And I was
No,
like,
they
okay,
don't.
mom, whatever. But now I'm like, you right, mom. You right. We should listen. They lived on this fucking planet for so many years without white people's involvement,
Yeah,
and they did just fine. There
yeah,
was 60 million indigenous people in this land before white people showed up, so I think they were doing just fine
yeah.
without our help.
They definitely knew how to treat Mother Earth.
Yep, and people don't care about Mother Earth, and she's like, "All right, who can play that game, motherfucker?"
Yeah. Let's just say it's gonna get real hot.
Because what people don't realize is that we're not killing the planet. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're killing Mother Earth." No, we're not. Mother Earth has her cycles. It will be reborn. Things will thrive once again. We're killing ourselves as a species right off this fucking planet because we refuse to work with her and treat her like she gave us everything we need to fucking survive.
Yeah.
Because she did. So, you get what you get and you don't pitch a fit. Thanks to Kid City USA for giving me that little gem many, many years ago.
Yep.
All right, friends. Well, thanks for joining us for another week of sad history. I hope we all take the story and the climate around us as a signal to prepare for the future.
Yeah.
Whatever it's going to look like, again, the government ain't going to save us from ourselves.
No, we gotta do shit
We
ourselves.
got to build up that community.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, we hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you guys later.
Be kind to each other.
Love you. Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.